2014 Cardinal season. And when I mention head coach Bruce Arians, you define him how?
Oh boy, that is good. Bulletproof. I think bulletproof is the best way to say it. Bruce Arians is a guy, being an older head coach, of course. He's been in the league how long, Jude? A long, long time. His legacy is secure. He's made all the money he could possibly make, right, or imagine of making. And he's a guy that is very, very comfortable as to who he is and what he believes. And because of that, he's getting a head coaching opportunity now at the age of 60 and 61 now. And I think that gives him this bulletproof mentality, Jude, where he feels like, you know what, I'm going to do this my way. I'm going to do it my way because this might be the only head coaching job that I get my entire life. And because of that, I'm going to do it like Sinatra did it. I'm going to get the martini out. I'm going to get the Marlboro Red out, and I'm going to do it my way and sing the song the way I want to sing it. That's what I think. When I think of BA.
Air, isn't it? This is rarefied air in a sense that many coaches are caught in the political structure of an organization, a big signing, a big contract, the GM, a team owner. So what you see is what you get, to coin an old term.
Yeah, you know what? I think when you're 40 years old and suddenly you've been offered a head coaching job in the National Football League, that speaks highly of your acumen, right? Your ability to be a head coach. You obviously have done something at a coordinator position that has got the attention of a lot of people. They think you're an up-and-comer, right? Well, you know, one bad experience with one NFL team could ruin that. So I think you get a lot of guys in their 40s who get the first opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL. They have to consider the next job because, as we all know, it's the exception where a guy will take a head coaching job in his 40s and finish his career there when he's in his 60s, right? I mean, that's just pie in the sky stuff. This is a what have you done for me lately league. So because of that, I really do believe that a lot of guys in their 40s worry about how they're being perceived and worry about, well, what happens if I get fired here? Will I get another opportunity somewhere else? So they feel like they have to play the game.
Let me ask you this. He's an offensive coordinator that understands the passing game, I think, better than most, in that, to coin some of the terms you used, he's not afraid to challenge a secondary with that vertical ball, better than anybody.
Yeah.
He is like, I'll push you, and I'll push you again, and I'll come back with the same play after that play, deep, deep, and deep again.
Absolutely.
As you used to say back in the Arena League, he'll put that cornerback in a position where he might have to wear Depends undergarments.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But Bruce is a guy that understands three-dimensional offenses. That's what I love about him, okay? The fact that you've got to run the ball to use play action. And when you run the ball, not only do you throw it, obviously, with a 3-step drop, a 5-step drop, but also using play action. That is the third dimension of offensive football, right? And we're seeing a lot of teams just kind of ignore play action across the NFL. I do believe it's starting to come back, but Bruce Arians understands that. And the best way, in my opinion, to throw the ball deep is off of play action. And that means you've got to be able to run the ball, to get those linebackers to go ahead and respect that, to get those corners in the secondary, the back end, to kind of press up towards the line, knowing that you like to run the ball, and then go with an 8-man protection and throw the ball down the field. Those are the bullets, metaphorical though they be, that Bruce Arians likes to talk about, taking his shots. We're going to empty that gun. Again, metaphorically speaking, we're going to take our shots down the field. BA loves to do that. The other thing I love about Bruce is the fact that he coaches everything. I don't know if you've picked up on this, Jude. He coaches every position offensively that is out there. He coaches everybody defensively, but of course, because he is, in effect, the offensive coordinator as well, the play caller for the Cardinals, he focuses on every position and knows it. And look, when he can walk up to a guy who's playing right guard and saying, are you kidding me? That's a 4-man slide. You've got to protect your gap on the inside, right? All of a sudden, how much more weight does that carry to a player when he knows the head coach knows every position and every responsibility on that offense? That's the difference with BA, too, in offensive football.
And that equals accountability, in which he can call each and every player out. You're either doing it right or you're not.
And he does, doesn't he?
Including his star players. He'll get in their face.
You know what? It's one of the very first things my brother told me about him. Of course, my older brother Craig playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers for as long as he did, and being there with Tom Moore, if you can imagine that. And then as an analyst, a sideline analyst with BA as the offensive coordinator for so many years, wide receiver coach as well. He knows BA very well. And the very first thing he told me about BA was, this guy will undress you. He will verbally vituperate you, accost you, and yet at the same time, he'll be the first guy to walk up and hug you and say, you did it right, kid, you did it right. Jude, that is coaching. That's what coaching is all about. And he did that. I'll never forget this. Last year, last training camp, his first year here, day 3, Larry Fitzgerald did not make a block. Did not make a block, Jude. Larry Fitzgerald happens to be a wide receiver, as you know. Most of the time, you're not going to go off on somebody because they didn't make a block on a running play. Larry didn't make a block, and BA took the opportunity to vituperate Larry in front of the team. And Larry, with his great humility, accepted that, of course, and is better because of it. But that told me something immediately about Bruce Arians, a couple of things. First of all, if he's doing it to Larry, that message is sent to everyone else on that team. If I'll do it to him, guess what I'm going to do to you if you don't do your job? And the second thing it told me about BA, this is an old school coach and believes in a lot of old school coaching tactics. Yet at the same time, he's also a progressive. That's a paradox, Jude, to have that old school mentality and yet be progressive enough where you're willing to say, we're not going to stretch as a team. We're not going to stretch as a team. Everybody is always stretched as a team. Coach, what are you talking about? We're not going to get down on the ground and stretch as a team. He leaves it up to the player to go do it themselves. Get themselves ready. That's a progressive approach.
Please note, during the interview, analyst uses the word vituperate twice. And we will go to our online dictionary for many of our viewers out there.
Vituperate, of course. To berate somebody.
See, that's it. It's all right here in this interview. All right, let's go to the addition of this team, 014. 2 areas that you like. Start with pressure on the quarterback.
Okay. I think there are 2 big red fulcrums. That's what I'm calling them. Fulcrums to the entire season for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, that is a gross oversimplification. You know that. There's so many other things that have to happen here. But when you talk schematically and philosophically about the Cardinals' 2014 season and what you think they need to be able to do in order to be successful, the very first thing is protect Carson Palmer. You need to be able to do that. Carson Palmer is the type of quarterback where if you allow him to get to his mark, set up on that mark, go through his progression, and throw the ball with a little rhythm in a little time, right? Where you're not moving him off that mark, moving him around that pocket. I think Carson Palmer's as good as you want as a quarterback, right? And he's not alone in that category either. There's a lot of quarterbacks that have been like that. But that just means your protection has got to be good. It's got to be really, really good. And when you talk about protection, Jude, you've got to talk about the entire team because that's what it takes to protect a quarterback. Physically, your offensive line has got to be able to hold up physically. And we all know that's been a problem from time to time for the Arizona Cardinals, especially over the last 2-3 seasons, right? You've got to be able to hold up. The running backs have got to be able to pick up the second-level blitzers. Physically, you've got to be able to hold up. Mentally, you've got to be able to hold up. Not only knowing your assignment as an offensive lineman or a running back, but how about the wide receivers? They have to be seeing exactly what Carson Palmer is seeing. They have to know when they're hot and when they need to break their route off. They have to sight adjust their routes. They have to read coverage just the way Carson Palmer is reading coverage. And if they're not running the correct hots, if they're not making the correct reads out there, that impacts Carson Palmer as a quarterback and makes him look bad. We've seen examples of this. Last year, Carson Palmer in the first 8 games threw 14 interceptions. Jude, I'm going to guess, I'm going to speculate, but I'll tell you right now, maybe 6 or 7 of them because of the wide receivers running the incorrect route. And suddenly your quarterback looks like, what? What are you doing?
And the masses are ready to charge the cake.
This guy is a bum! Get him out, right? So it really takes a team to protect a quarterback, especially in the day and age of the fire zone blitz. The fire zone is designed. The power of the fire zone scheme, it's all about tricking your protection scheme into thinking you're doing one thing and you're really doing another. That's why it's so difficult, because it makes all 11 guys on the field have to be on the same page.
It's something Todd Bowles does rather well on his side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. He manufactures pressure. You know, there are really 3 ways you can get pressure on an opposing quarterback if you're a defensive coordinator. Number 1, you can just be better than the guys trying to block you. I call it just being better than. Yeah, you've got 4 guys that can line up and just be better than the 5 offensive linemen trying to keep them. And we know what an advantage that is to any defensive coordinator. If you could rush 4 and drop 7, that's huge in the National Football League, right? The Cardinals have one guy that I think on the edge in particular. Of course, they have Calais Campbell coming from the inside. They had Darnell Dockett before he got hurt coming from the inside. But it's easier to try to block those guys on the inside when you've got help in there as well, as opposed to the edges. That's why the best pass rushers in the league, obviously, come from the edge, right? The Cardinals have one guy, John Abraham, that can line up and just be better than the guy that is blocking him. That's one way to get pressure on a quarterback. The other way is manufacturing pressure via scheme. This is where Todd Bowles excels. Just an excellent year last year in scheming, manufacturing pressure on opposing quarterback. And the third way is through coverage. You just got great corners, you have great safeties, you have great coverage in your secondary, and you get coverage sacks. Those are the 3 ways that you can get pressure. Todd Bowles really excels via scheme.
Project to the 2014 season in the toughest division in the National Football League for the Arizona Cardinals.
Jude, the identity of this team in 2013 was their rush defense. That was the one thing they could hang their hat on and say, you're not running the ball against us. That was their identity right there. Number 1 rush defense in the National Football League, and Jude, they play in the NFC West. Do you know how hard that is to do that in the NFC West when twice a year you're taking on Marshawn Lynch and the Seattle Seahawks, when twice a year you're playing the San Francisco 49ers and Frank Gore and that rushing attack, and now it's going to be Carlos Hyde this year. So to me, if they can lose a Carlos Dansby, if they can lose Darrell Washington, if they can lose Darnell Dockett, and you tell me that they don't drop out of the top 10 in rush defense, that's still a strength on this football team, I'll tell you overall, I think they're going to be a better defense. And that makes no sense.
Explain yourself there, because you're losing 3 key members of your defense.
Okay, so once again, if you tell me that the rush defense is going to be good, number 5, number 6 in the NFL, that it's going to be difficult for opposing teams to run the ball against the Cardinals, then I'll tell you their back end is going to be better because of Antonio Cromartie, because of Patrick Peterson. I think the Honey Badger is going to be fine when he comes back, and he should be back sometime, I would imagine, in September. Maybe it's after the bye, maybe it's before the bye, don't know just yet, but he's going to be back. He's a game changer. Now you tell me Deone Bucannon as well, with the kind of preseason he's had, he brings length, he brings physicality, he brings athleticism, he brings speed to the back end. And the back end, never forget this, the back end dictates what a defensive coordinator can do in that box. Right? Because if you don't have guys who can cover, if you don't have guys that can hold up one-on-one, you're not going to be coming with a lot of blitzes. You're just not going to be doing that. And that's what Todd Bowles was able to do last year. And I think it's only going to be more pronounced this year, especially when you consider Gerard Powers and what he has done this preseason. As your number 3 corner, I'll take that any day.
Let's go down a different road here and talk about the love of the game. America's passion for the National Football League is at an all-time high. I'll look to your maybe literary insights here. What is it about this game that continues to pique the interest of the American viewing public?
Jude, I really think it's the fact that we all have the capacity to be a little violent. I hate to say that. It's a dark thing. It exists in every one of us. The villager that exists in every one of us, the primal side that exists in every one of us. Try to take a baby from a mom. You want to see somebody get violent who might be the most docile creature on the face of the planet? Try to do that. And I think on a very base level, I think that resonates with us as human beings, that the game is so aggressive, so savage, so primal. Even now, with all the rule changes and everything else, I think that speaks to us in this country. I think it speaks to us as human beings. And I think it's one of the reasons why. And it's one of those forbidden topics. It's one of those things you really don't want to talk about. You know, the aggressiveness in the game, dare I say the violence that is in the game. And yet at the same time, I'm willing to say I think that's one of the reasons why it is so popular. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.